The home of Welsh sport. This is Cymru Sport.
Good evening, Bluebirds fans, and welcome to Cardiff City World on Cymru Sport, the most interactive radio show in Welsh sport, built by fans for fans. Over the next hour, we've got a packed show just for you. Former Cardiff City manager Mark Hudson joins us to reflect on his time in the dugout and the challenges faced by managers in their first job. Plus, we have football journalist Darren Whitcup in the house with all the latest transfer news, who's come in, who's going, what to expect in the final days of the transfer window. And if that wasn't enough, we've got a huge announcement about our first live event of 2025. You don't want to miss it. As always, we want to hear from you, the Bluebirds faithful. Get in touch, have your say, and be a part of the conversation. This is Cardiff City World. This is Cymru Sport. Get involved. Good evening, guys. Yes, I'm Si. This is Cardiff City World. We are on Cymru Sport, and we have lots to discuss this evening as we delve into a range of subjects. For the first hour, we will be talking all things Cardiff City with a couple of special guests, as always. And I'll be looking towards the comments on the Cymru Sport Facebook page, the Cardiff City World YouTube channel. And we'll be looking to hear your views on what's going on with Cardiff City. We've had a new signing this week. We've got rumours of some more in the final days of the transfer window. Things have picked up with the form on the pitch. So it's going to be an interesting conversation. And of course, as I mentioned, we'll be joined by former Cardiff City manager, Cardiff City captain, Mr. Mark Hudson, who can give a unique insight into what it's like to be a manager at an EFL club and be in your first job as a young manager. So we're really looking forward to that. And don't forget, from 8 o'clock, we have the Welsh Football Hour, where we'll discuss anything from the international team to grassroots and everything in between. I am delighted to welcome to the show this evening my first guest on my first episode of Cardiff City World on Cymru Sport is none other than former Cardiff City manager, former Cardiff City captain, Mr. Mark Hudson. How are you?
Hi, mate. How are you?
Very happy, mate. Got lots of nervous energy.
I made it. I was a bit late. Apologies.
Thank you very much. No, I appreciate your time, mate. It looks, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you for a while.
No, it's been a long time, isn't it? I think. Yeah, time flies, doesn't it? I think.
Yeah, it really does.
Disappears on you. So, no, you're all good.
Very good, mate. Got lots, like I say, lots of nervous energy, but I'm getting through it. You know, no, it's exciting. Got a few little bits going on this evening, so really excited. But I'm most excited to talk to you, of course. You obviously spent a good portion of your career down in Cardiff, God's country, as some people refer to it, and tell us a bit about that time as a player, first of all, and what your time in Cardiff was like.
Well, I think overall, if I look back on it now, I think it's a hugely successful time for me as a player. For my family off field, we had like I said, we had our, well, I've spoke to you before, we had our boys there, created a family home. So successful time for the club, and off field it was really good. Met a lot of good people, still family friends from there, and yeah, really enjoyed my time there for sure.
Indeed, mate. And you also had the pleasure of meeting me, which is
well,
added bonus for you.
It's up there.
You've also got a unique insight. Obviously, the Cardiff have a young manager at the moment, interim manager till the summer. At the moment, it's his first big job. There's a lot of pressure which surrounds the job at Cardiff, particularly when he took over. That we had one goal, I think, and 1 point. How difficult is it for an interim manager, for a young manager, to come into a job that size, particularly in a difficult situation?
Well, of course, it's hugely difficult, isn't it? I think he's obviously going to be looking up in terms of when he comes in, the things he can change, and maybe some quick fixes to get you sort of results. But he'll have had an overview of what he would like to put in place. And recently, he's done really well. So the work that was going on behind the scenes and probably his thought process of what he can achieve going forward. It looks like the players are all behind him, which is a huge thing. I think you need that. You need to create togetherness, and he looks like he's done that. So yeah, I think it's definitely. I suppose you can't look too far ahead, but you need to get results to be able to, I suppose, create a kind of longevity to it.
Is it difficult for an interim manager or a manager who's in the short term maybe to weigh up? For Omar Rhys, he's spoken quite openly that he'd like to build for the future and he wants the job, obviously. But is it difficult to weigh up, I guess, maybe getting some of those exciting young players in, but also, you've got to get the points for the here and now as well?
I suppose you say young players, but it depends on what's going to make an impact with the team now. So obviously you've had Keane come in and done really well, scored a few goals as well. So that's obviously creates a bit of a pathway, which is a longer term thing. But it'll definitely be for what can impact the team. He's not just putting young players in just for the sake of putting young players in. And obviously if that helps in terms of the longevity and creating a pathway, that adds to it all. So I think you always have one eye on what the future holds and what you can put in place. But I suppose the ultimate focus is getting results and making it stable and putting yourself in a position to be able to create something long term.
Interesting. What was your favourite memory of your time as Cardiff sort of manager and interim manager?
Favourite time? I suppose getting wins out. Getting wins help. I think actually just being offered the opportunity to be able to do that, from being a player to maybe thinking once you leave that you maybe never go back, to then being invited back to be able to be part of the coaching staff, and then being, I suppose, trusted to be given the role to lead, to manage the team is. I suppose that's probably the highlight. I think, because it's not something you never think it will happen. So it's, I suppose that given the opportunity was something I will always hold dear to me. Really,
is it obviously Cardiff City fans? We all view the club as big. We also feel that it has the potential to be massive, as all football fans, I guess, do, don't they, with their club? Is it a big job which comes with a lot of pressure?
I suppose the pressure is to get results. It's a city. It means so much to everyone, and it should. And that pressure should be enjoyed. I suppose that it's not the pressure from the fans. I think they want to see exciting football. They want to see results. They want to see the team doing well. I think pressure in any football, any walk of life in football, I suppose it comes with it. Results, business, that's pressure. But ultimately, you've got to enjoy it. And I did enjoy it. And I suppose, I think when it doesn't go quite your way, then obviously that results can turn and you don't get results. That's pressure. But I think, again, you've got to enjoy it. I think, you can't look beyond that, and you've got to try and put, I suppose, a style in play that everyone gets behind. But the fans just will always get behind you and always want the team to be successful. So I don't see that as pressure at all.
Good stuff. What are you up to now, Mark?
Well, I'm at Ipswich Town currently, and we're obviously in the Premier League, giving ourselves a chance to do something special. I'm enjoying my time here. It's a brilliant place to working with amazing staff, learning lots while I'm here, and we're sort of heading in the right direction as the club sort of looks forward and tries to build stuff short term, long term, medium term as well. So it's definitely it's been progressive, and I was again, talking about being proud and being given the honour to come in and work with such a successful group so far, I suppose.
With the Ipswich job, I think it's interesting because obviously very successful in the Championship, played some great football, and Kieran McKenna, I'd imagine just from the outside, he looks like the sort of guy who would be an absolute pleasure to work with. He really, I rate him so highly as a young manager and tactically and things like this. But as a management group, how difficult is it to keep up morale in, what's always a very, very difficult season when teams come up to the Premier League and maybe, results are difficult to come by? Is it hard to keep that morale up and keep everyone positive, I guess?
No, I would say no, really. It's all about just sticking to your process. And that's what I've come in and learnt a lot about, working each day to try and better yourself and be the best you can, and learn as much as you can from each day. So you've got to focus on the day-to-day process, really. And that will help you over the period of a season.
A couple of questions just to finish us off. There's one in the chat which I find really interesting, which I'd like to get your take on. But as a player and as a manager, I guess, do you like or do you hate the transfer window? What's it like for the players, I guess?
As a player, you're only ever going to get talked about if you're doing well.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose if you're looking at a management side, you're probably, if you've got an opportunity to add and strengthen, then it can be quite exciting, and it might help you, I suppose, mid-season. I think they're different windows, aren't they? Totally different windows, if I'm being. So yeah, I think you can only, if my mindset would be to see it as a positive, and if your players are being linked to other clubs, then it's because they're doing well.
Indeed. Martin in the chat asked the question. He says, do you ever regret taking the manager's job at Cardiff?
No regrets in football. No, none really. I just, everything that's happened for a reason. I try and use that in terms of, again, not just in football, in my life, things, decisions, or you just, no regrets. No, just got to, decisions are made. You give it your best. Ultimately, things change in the future, and you've got to use them as, I suppose, opportunities.
Good man. And lastly, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask you very quickly to talk about that goal from the halfway line. Who gets the credit for telling you to shoot from there?
All the fans. It was definitely not in the mindset. It's not something I ever thought about doing. I think it was just more that they saw the keeper off the line more than I did. So it was, it's all down to them. But I think obviously the execution was pinpoint.
Super practiced many a time in training, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, more just whacking it away and just good connections. But no, yeah, it was definitely something that people bring up now, which is obviously a nice thing to have to your name. But yeah, there's more, the older I get, the more people are in disbelief that it actually was me. So
it must have been like slow motion as that ball's sort of going through the air.
That's how I played most of my career, wasn't it? In slow motion. That's what a lot of people. So yeah, it was definitely, it's a real moment. I think even like now, like I said, people ask me what were you thinking? But yeah, it was all the fans shouting shoot, so I did.
Excellent. I love it. It's one of my favourite moments, certainly in recent-ish years. It's definitely one of my favourite moments.
Was it 2012?
Time does fly, doesn't it? Jeez.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Jeez, it feels like not long. Wow.
I know.
Mark, really, really appreciate you joining me. As I said, I genuinely appreciate you being my first guest on the show, and I'm sure we'll see each other soon in some form.
You the best of it. I'm sure you'll do well.
Yeah, all the best for the season, mate. I'll speak to you soon. Take care, buddy.
Bye.
The home of Welsh sport. This is Cymru Sport.
Mark Hudson, ladies and gentlemen. Mark Hudson, is one of my favourite people who I've had the pleasure and the privilege of interviewing over the years. Really was a pleasure. He's a lovely guy, and we had a lot of fun when we did a couple of podcasts, I think, and we had a chat about a variety of things. So we forgot to ask him to do the Ayatollah, but no good for radio, is it? Let's be honest. If you start asking people to do visual things. But we've got another guest coming up shortly. So I thought we'd make the show a little bit more interactive. And let me ask you guys, what do you think of Cardiff City's new signing, Sivert? I've forgotten his surname. But he is technically an excellent footballer, very aggressive. And I think that he will do a very good job for Cardiff. It'll be interesting how they fit him in the formation, with Callum Chambers doing such a great job in the midfield. And obviously you've got Siopis has been on the bench. You've got Alex Robertson. You've got the captain, Joe Rawls. It's going to be really interesting how they fit them all in, because there's a lot of central midfielders in there who offer different skill sets, different attributes. So it'll be very interesting to see how Omar Rhys manages all those personalities and gets them playing. But I think from a squad strength point of view, it's an excellent signing. Probably too good for the Championship, if we're being perfectly honest. He's just he needs game time. He needs minutes. But you never know. When these players come on loan, you look at different players over the years who came on loan to Cardiff City. Craig Bellamy came on loan, ended up signing permanently. Jason Kumas had a couple of loan spells. Sometimes it can be just the right place, the right city, the right time, right club, and players just settle and they like it. So, fingers crossed, not only does he do well on the football pitch, but he also then goes on to really thrive in the what's quite a positive atmosphere, I think, at the moment on the pitch, because Cardiff are doing very well. It'll be transfer window is always exciting, isn't it? So we've got to look at, maybe Cardiff City will move some players out. Will they move some players in? I believe that we'll get at least one more in. I believe that'll be a winger, and it'll be. Then how do you make room? I want to hear what you guys think. You tell me, would you like to see a couple of extra signings? Would you like to keep it as it is? Sivert Manswerk is an excellent technical person, and I can see that. I can see him being an excellent signing. I can see him thriving in this system, and I can see him thriving in the team. I'm just not entirely sure how we fit him in and who drops out. I really like the look of a midfield of Manswerk, Robertson, and Colwell. If all three of them are at their absolute best, that's a very, very energetic young midfield. And if you get pace on the wings, then it becomes really, really exciting. You can, you shuffle them around. You could move Alex Robertson up to the 10, and then you can have a Joe Rawls slot in there. You can have a Siopis slot in there. There's suddenly very, very great depth of options for Omar Rhys. You've got Aaron Ramsey to come back is another one where you're looking at it and you're thinking, wow, where does he get in the team? So that's another side of it. You have these players returning from injury, but they can't just walk back into the team. They have to earn the right to get into that first 11. They have to earn the right to be in the squad. And this team is unbeaten in 2025, as I've mentioned. Ruben Colwell started Omar Rhys's reign as manager in a great bit of form. More recently, he struggled a little bit more. We've seen Alex Robertson move into that 10 position. So where do we go from there? It's going to be interesting. You guys tell me what you would do. How do you see Sivert Manswerk fitting into the system? Will he come straight into the starting lineup? Will he come, gradually? A couple of comments straight away. We've got lots of comments. I'm going to try and get to them just as we're waiting for Darren Widcoop to join us. He's going to join us about 1:30, and he will be having a chat to us about transfers. So I don't want to talk about transfers too much, but Alex Sims on the YouTube chat says, Si, do you know something that we don't? Well, I would like to think I know lots of things that you don't, but no, the word on the street is just that we are in the lookout for a loan forward. I believe that it'll probably happen. We've got a few days because the window doesn't shut till the 3rd of February, of course, which is a bit unique, but it means all the European windows line up nicely. So that'll be a good way of, it gives us a couple of extra days to play with. Will we see some outs as well? Do you think Cardiff City will sell any players or move any players out in this window? You would have thought if we were going to move players out, we would have moved them out already. But for whatever reason, that hasn't happened. Big Rob Boyle in the chat says Sorba Thomas has been linked, hasn't he? He has been heavily linked today with a loan move to Cardiff City. He's currently on loan at Nantes. I don't think he's played as much recently. However, he's obviously the player is owned by or has a contract with Huddersfield Town, so it would be Huddersfield who Cardiff would need to negotiate with. Do I think he would be a good sign-in? On his day, Sorba Thomas is excellent. He's pacey, he's strong. And what I really like about him, actually, is that, similar to Ollie Tanner, similar to Ian Ashford, he does a lot of good work defensively. He'll go up and down that the right or the left-hand side. He's very versatile. The biggest issue for Sorba Thomas over the years has been probably, staying fit. He's had a couple of serious injuries, but he seems to have put them behind him by and large, which means that he can certainly be a good signing for Cardiff City. Will it happen? I'm not 100% sure. Lewis Watts in the chat says that he would like to see a midfield of Callum Chambers, Manswerk, and then Robertson. That's an interesting one. Again, there's so many different combinations of that midfield of it. The players that are available. It's really interesting to see what they will go with, and it gives you that tactical versatility as well for different games, different opportunities. And we can certainly move on from there. I believe Reindorf has gone out on loan to Notts County. I'm not sure if that's been officially confirmed, but that was certainly the reports in the local media yesterday, was that Notts County had won the race for Reindorf. He was very wanted. Newport County, a couple of teams in Scotland. So it'll be really interesting. Now here's an interesting comment I like this one. Marcus, who is a Welsh Leeds fan, here in peace. He says, what's your prediction for the game on Saturday? So, Marcus, you'll be sad to know that I've got a feeling. I've got a feeling that Cardiff might do a bit of a smash and grab on Saturday. We normally play all right when we go to Leeds. The results don't always come, but I feel like our performances have been, fairly decent in recent times. So I will go with a 2-1 to Cardiff. But, I'm never going to go against Cardiff, honestly. But the way Leeds play football and some of the young players that Leeds have in their 11 and their squad is quite scary. They could if they turn it on, Leeds can be very difficult to manage, very difficult to deal with. So it's important that Cardiff are defensively solid. And when they do win the ball in the transition and they have the opportunity to counter-attack, they have to be clinical. They have to take their chances. And ultimately, that'll be what makes or breaks the game for Cardiff, I think, is whether they can be clinical in the transition, on the breaks and things like that. As I mentioned earlier, towards the end of the first hour, we'll have an announcement regarding the next live event, and really looking forward to that. Tickets will go on sale on Friday morning for Cardiff City World members. You can do that by joining the YouTube channel or a Patreon. They have 24 hours then, the members, to get the tickets. And 11 o'clock, on Saturday, the tickets will go on sale for the public. So really looking forward to that. I was hoping that the guest for that live event was going to join me this evening for the announcement. Unfortunately, he's unable to make it because he's working at a Champions League game. However, he may be able to join me for the breakdown this weekend. But I am delighted to say that we will talk some more transfers in just a second.
You're listening to Cardiff City World on Cymru Sport Radio, live from the Welsh capital. The most interactive football show in Wales, featuring guests, fan opinion, and all the latest news surrounding Cardiff City. Have your say and get in touch now.
Welcome back, and I'm delighted to be joined to talk a bit of transfers, talk about the season so far, by journalist Darren Whitcup. How are you, mate? Good to have you.
Yeah, good. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good, mate. Very good. It's been a while. We haven't had a chat for a little bit, so thought it was a good opportunity.
Yeah, busy good few weeks during the transfer window, and a good few weeks for Cardiff as well, which is nice to hear, because the last time I was on, it was a rocky patch, as it has been most of the season, really.
Yeah, it's been a very strange season on the pitch. I mean, let's take it back to the summer a little bit with Cardiff. I felt that Cardiff had a pretty good window in the summer. I think the only thing which kind of didn't work out was the most important one in some ways, which was the striker. Because if Kanga works out, I think you can look back at that window as being a very clever, very good window. Unfortunately, Kanga didn't work out, which is a big issue and obviously contributed to the poor start. What did you make of Cardiff's business in the summer?
Like anything, you never know till season gets going. I thought Willock was a good signing, and he's just blown hot and cold, more cold really, isn't he? I saw him play at QPR live a few times, and he was always, when he was fit, when he had injury problems, was always excellent. And I thought he'd be a bit of a missing ingredient, but he was playing more at QPR down the middle, and I know Cardiff have had him on the flank, and that's where they see him, which is fine. But he scored quite a few goals down the middle. So his output, hasn't been as good as they hoped, probably. I did worry about a lack of pace, which is still a problem, I think. I think all fans think the same thing. They're quite easy to defend against a lot of the time. You need that someone who's just going to turn a defender, turn around, put them to the byline, and that's been a problem all season. There's no one really with that real gas to get to that byline and cross the ball in. And a lot of the times you watch Cardiff play, it's very similar. They dominated the ball, but it was all in front of the defence. They just sat deep, and it was like watching so many, especially at home, it was like Groundhog Day, back four, and obviously the Wade team was so easy to defend against. And they nick a goal, and then it was even worse then. So, but yeah, I said the last few weeks is obviously they've picked up, and they're no way out of trouble, that's for sure. But I think if they can get a winger in now before the end of the deadline, which I know they're pushing for, then I think they'll be happy with that.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to see, because I think Omar Rhys, his reign from sort of start to present day started quite well. Had a rocky spell sort of going into Christmas and over Christmas, but he recovered really well from the Oxford game, and I think the performances have really picked up. Then there's been a definite difference in the quality of performance. But it's interesting you mentioned pace. I just answered a question just before you came on from a Leeds fan about Saturday's game, and I said Cardiff must be clinical when they do turn the ball over and they do hit Leeds on the break. They have to be clinical and they have to take those chances. But a big part of that is pace. And, we're heavily reliant on the pace of, Callum Robinson, Ollie Tanner, Cian Ashford, because outside of those sort of three, there isn't a lot of pace in the side, is there? No,
I mean, there's a bit of pace for those three, as you mentioned, but there's not that absolute gas, which a lot of teams seem to have. Everyone wants, obviously, but a lot of teams in the Championship at the top end do seem to have. So yeah, O'Dowda's also sharp, but when he plays further forward, but again, he's not blistering. So I think they're looking for someone I know Ricky J. Jones was someone they liked. That I was told from the start that was really always going to be a no-goer. Peterborough, an assistant, they want to keep him. And because they can get a better deal with him in the summer, which sounds very odd. But actually, if he goes abroad, he can get more money with Tribunal. It's all quite complicated in that respect. And obviously, they're struggling as well in League One. So he's was never really going to happen, I don't think, unless they paid crazy money for him. And he obviously plays striker and a wing for Peterborough. There's a few other names, obviously, they're looking at. I know Sorba Thomas has been mentioned, but I don't think that will happen. It's complicated as well with Nantes, which is the history of the club with them, but it's not just that. There's a lot of issues involved. I know Hull were really keen on him, and that deal was really close to being done. And basically, they decided Louis Barry's coming, and we'll pull the plug on that one, which is a good signing. So I do think he'll go somewhere, actually, in the next week, but I don't think it will be Cardiff.
Yeah, I think they've been linked to that, the young lad from Southampton, quite heavily as well. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I think the three Peterborough players that are out of contract are all really interesting. You've got Ricky J. Jones, you've got Poku, who's their top scorer, and also Pripranu in the midfield. But I said I think it was the first time we were linked with Ricky J. Jones, I said Peterborough are so difficult to negotiate with. I would be amazed if they were to let go, even for big, relatively big money, their three best players when they're fighting relegation themselves. It didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, Peterborough are actually really hard to deal with, as you said, but also very good in the transfer window. They pick a lot of good young players up from non-league, lower leagues. I mean, so many players over the years. Their track record is unbelievable. And they normally sell for a very big profit. So, I think that was always. I didn't think that was ever going to happen. Jay Jones. The other two players mentioned, Poku is liked by a lot of clubs, but he's had quite a lot of injuries. He probably will move on at some stage. And the boy in midfield, I don't know much about him at all. I know his name is linked, but he was not one of that I've heard of. I think it's the obvious link because Rhys knows him. But obviously, I don't think midfield is an issue really, which is vital at the moment. They just obviously signed the boy from Ajax, who I don't know much about, to be honest with you. And that went it really under the radar, that signing. And Ajax don't normally have many bad players on their books, so you think he'd be a decent signing. Do they need another central midfielder? I don't know. I mean, it's not a bad thing to have more strength and depth. I've always worried about Cardiff, watching them play, the gaps between the defence and the midfield, especially at home where teams have broken through the lines really quickly, very easily. I think the positioning sometimes the CEO hasn't always been there, and he's not the only one. And I think maybe that is something they looked at. I think we need someone. Chambers has come in and done really well in that respect. They look a lot harder to beat, but I think they were so easy to play against. But Chambers can't play every game. Rules doesn't play every game. Wintle was of the discussed, but looks like he's staying now at Millwall, especially with this signing. He won't be coming back now. So, I think it's not a bad signing, and hopefully he'll be a good player. But it wasn't an area, if you said to a Cardiff fan or anyone, or who do they need, central midfield wasn't really that area, I don't think, which we're not crying out for. But there's another player through the club who will probably add to the squad, no doubt.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think central midfield probably wasn't top of the list. I think if he's able to, fulfill his potential and what he's shown previously, he could turn out to be a very shrewd and excellent signing, because he looks like a quality player. And like you say, Ajax don't have a lot of technically poor players come through, with them. Do you think there's a possibility that Cardiff could move maybe like a Psyopis or someone out in January, or do you think that's more likely they'll look at that in the summer?
I wouldn't rule it out. I've not heard anything at all, and I'd say it'd be the summer, but they are quite top heavy of the central midfield players now. But I think Chambers is, in one way, not complicated things, but another body which nobody really expected to play that position. I know he's played there before and has done really well. And actually, if you look at him, he's since moving to that central midfield position, they've been a lot harder to play against, and that's proven them the results. He was excellent against Swansea. He gets his foot and he can play a bit, but he really, really marshals that defence, strong in the air. and he's much better than he is in central midfield and centre half, where I thought he's looked a bit vulnerable at times, and prone to the odd error. And I think he's had a more of a solid base, and also you've got another one from a set piece there, because the set piece has been really frustrating this year, as you know. Last year they relied on it way too much, but scored a lot of goals. This year, it's 3 or 4 goals. Obviously, Gutas scored the other week with a header, but NG, there hasn't been many goals and corners and free kicks, and that's a really big source. So he's obviously adds another aerial threat up there. So he's been excellent. I think Chambers. I think it took everyone by surprise, but I think he's really has made a big difference to that midfield.
Yeah, he seems to have helped some of the other midfielders, like Alex Robertson's given a bit more freedom. I think even Siopis, when he's played with Chambers, has looked more comfortable, because Siopis tends to vacate the midfield a little bit to go, pressing and hunting. And you alluded to it a little bit just now, which, it can be a good thing because he goes and wins the ball and you can win the ball high up the pitch. But if they play past him or around him, it becomes a big issue. So, like you say, Chambers has made a difference with that. On sticking with the outs, I guess, is there any other Cardiff players who could be moving out in January, whether that be a loan or a permanent deal?
Well, Tete's the one who will be leaving. I think it's initially on loan, what I'm hearing, but he's obviously out of contract at the end of the season. So where that leaves him, I don't know. If he goes and does well, then the club might give a new deal. But he's had so many injuries and just hasn't really cut it, as he has for the last couple of years of the club. Forget the injuries on the pitch. He should do well. He's big. He's got a decent stature about him. He's got a bit of pace, but he's never really got going. And you wonder if League One, it might be his level at this stage. But that Sheffield United game that he played, which is, I think, it's the only game he's played this season. If he scores one in that game, which he should have scored, at least one, he should have scored. It was the header, I think he should have buried, and the goalkeeper and hit one wide as well. In the cup game, if he scores one there, then all of a sudden that's a different picture, and the club might think, we might keep him. But they're looking for some bit more potential, and obviously signing the lads they signed from Sweden is they made their mind up that it just wasn't for him.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, Salic looks. He almost looks, with the greatest of respect, he looks everything which Kanga wasn't. He gets about the pitch. He's quite aggressive in the tackle. He link up plays good.
I mean, Kanga was a disaster. Wasn't he? Let's not be around the bush. I mean, there's going to be a player there because he scored goals. If you look at his record, he scored goals elsewhere. So it's just quite typical Cardiff, really. They're a bit like West Ham Cardiff in that respect. For every striker they sign seems to be a bit of a. They can't find anyone. I mean, obviously, the last striker who scored goals was Kiefer Moore. So, I mean, obviously, I have only seen him play a little bit against Millwall when he just sort of should have scored the header, but at least he popped up with that equaliser. He had a chance, I think, on the weekend, didn't he? Which he could have buried, but the keeper saved. But that was,
Yeah, he created that himself, didn't he? With a little bit of a run and whatnot.
I think just fans are crying out for someone. And this is why the frustrating thing was Kanga and a little bit of a Matty, I think. I just think someone who puts himself about and will run and challenge. And Cabba was a bit of a favourite. Technically, Cabba wasn't particularly great, didn't hold the ball up really well, but he got in positions. And I just think when you watch Matty play, and I know he's gotten a bit of stick lately, but he just doesn't seem to be in the right position. He's, watch that Millwall game. I know he plays on the wing. He's not really a winger. I don't quite know what position he is, actually.
I think that's part of the problem, Darren, is that the team and maybe him to a certain extent don't quite know where to play him. Like sometimes they play him on the right, sometimes they play him through the middle. And I think through the middle, his link-up play and his hold-up play is pretty good. He's a big lad, he's strong. But then when it comes to the finishing is when he struggles a little bit. And then when he's on the wing, he's very kind of predictable and easy to defend against. So it's almost... Do you see what I mean? You're almost like stuck in between.
Yeah, and I think he's not in both positions. He's had a fair run in both those positions from the start and off the bench, and he's never done it. I watched him play at Reading once at a game. I was covering the game, what was it, 2-3 years ago maybe. And I can't remember who we were playing against. He absolutely tormented the opposition. He scored one, but he could have scored a couple more. But he was and I thought, blimey, he's a good signing. Get him right. He's a handful, but he's just not. I know he's had injury problems as well, but he's just not done it. I think he's scored 2 goals, isn't he? Since the signing, 3 goals maybe.
Yeah, I think 3 in total. It's
yeah,
unfortunate, isn't it?
yeah. And you watch him play, and you just think, is he gonna make it? And his contract's up, so he won't be staying. I can't imagine him staying. And there'll be quite a lot of players will be leaving in the summer, which is
What,
probably
um,
needed.
Yeah, I mean, Cardiff have a unique opportunity in many ways. They have 13 players out of contract. A few of them are, on the not old but certainly in the latter stage of their career. They also have a big group of very talented youngsters coming through at the academy now. So it's not very often that clubs have the opportunity to maybe let a couple go without having to sell them, and then also bring some young players through. They've obviously got a basis of good young players in the first team squad already, and Darland and Bagan, Alex Robertson, Ruben Colwell, people like this. What have you kind of heard in relation to those contracts and the players out of contracts? Have you heard any decisions being made or any sort of way that like people?
Not at the moment. Not of any of the players, actually. Behind the scenes, they might be discussing things, but if you look at the players out of contract, who would they want to keep at the moment? Obviously, Robinson has had a decent season, and he's probably earned a new contract, but Robinson's on big money, so
Yes.
That has to look at. He was a big money signing, and I don't think he'll get the same terms again. But then he's got himself in the shop window now, the goals, and other clubs will think, hold on a second, he's got 10 goals, isn't he, already? For a struggling team. He's 29, so he's still got a few years left in him. There's not much resale value on him, really, when you're 29, but he's an international player as well for Ireland. So he's done enough to earn a new deal, but a lot of them you think, would you keep him? So, there is a chance for turnover of players. Be interesting to see what happens. I think it's all about which division the club are in. That's the thing, isn't it? If they're in the Championship again, then you think some of them will stay. They'll offer new terms. Like Rinomhota, you'd think 2 months ago, less than that, he was definitely a goner. And he still might be vulnerable, but he's come in and done a good job. And, there's important squad players like that you need in the Championship. Those sort of guys who know that level.
It's strange with Rinomhota, mate, because he was, like you said, like probably 6 months ago, maybe, end of last season, he looked like he'd probably be leaving the club at the next opportunity. And now, most fans you speak to, he's probably up there for Player of the Year this year. He's been absolutely superb. Certainly the most consistent player within the squad. I think, like you say, even if going forward, when we improve the squad and you have players coming in and things like this, even if he's not a starter all the time, he is someone who's very versatile and will give you a good sort of 7 out of 10 every time he plays. And I think you need those players, particularly if you've got a young squad. Having experienced players like that is vital.
Well, also playing right back almost covers 2 positions now, which we've never really seen as right back before, was he? And he's come in and listen, what you're going to get with him against Swansea I thought Robinson got the goals, but he was man of the match. I thought he was really kept that Ronald quiet, can be quite tricky on his day. He was up and down the wing. Look, you get from him. He's not going to be outstanding. He never gets the byline whip crosses in, but he's steady. And I think, especially with the current state of the club, where they're a predicament in the league, you need the defence has been shaky, and I think he's shown up a little bit by just getting stuck in. Really, that sounds ridiculous thing to say, but I think NG was, I don't know about you, but he was driving a lot of fans mad. I like NG, actually. I think he's a really good player. I know people don't always think that. I think he's very good. He's very good on the ball. He adds a different dimension to Rinomhota, definitely, when he's down that wing. You can see he can get to the byline. But occasionally his position is caught out. But I think NG from corners, he drives you mad. He's always looking to push someone or foul. The referee looks. And he was just going through those stages. And I think him being out the side was the best thing I know he had injury at one point, but I think it was the best thing for him and the club, because it brought Rinomhota in, and all of a sudden, defensively it looked a little more solid and just harder to play against. A bit of that sort of toughness,
bit of steel, yeah.
Which I think we look at Gutas as well, and Darland's obviously played. They've got a good partnership at the moment. Heading everything away is what they need, and I think at the moment that's what you need at this position within the table, just to grind out those wins. Because they've, important few weeks ahead. Like every game, it's still a long way to go, and you're one or two defeats away from back in that bottom three. So they're not out of the woods yet, but I think they look a lot harder to play against at the moment. Hopefully
yeah, it's fascinating because I think you have, if you, like you say, if you lose a couple of games, you're back in the bottom three. But if you win a couple of games, you shoot right up the table. And I think someone worked out the other day that if we hadn't conceded the late goals, which resulted in draws since Christmas, we'd be, I can't remember if it was 9th or 12th or something like that. It's
a
so
margin
close this year.
I mean, the Stoke game was a killer, wasn't it? I mean, I saw the result come in at 2-1. I was watching it and I was waiting for that final. I didn't have the game on, but I was waiting for that final score. And it was the last game to come in, a 97th minute, whatever it was. Oh, God. And there was a few games like that. So I know obviously Cardiff had a few results the other way as well. Millwall got a point. Norwich, they obviously snuck at the end. But there's been quite a few games. Coventry was a late goal as well. And it's so frustrating. But yeah, as you said, Derby was a team. I always actually thought Derby would struggle this year. And someone asked me about Derby a while back, and I always thought they would get dragged into it. A bit like Oxford. Oxford have been unbelievable, and they pulled really away. Rowett's done a fantastic job there. But I always said Oxford and Derby will be round that area. And I think the fans have had enough of Paul Ward, and that's for certain there. But so I think there's probably 6 or 7 teams, you would say, and Swansea obviously been dragged into it as well.
Definitely.
I don't think Swansea will go down, but they've been dragged into it. And obviously losing 2 or 3 key players is going to make a difference. It's a bit of a mess there at the moment. But yeah, I think the Championship's so hard to tell. I mean, Plymouth getting a point of Sunderland, nobody saw that.
I think it's I think it's as tight as it's ever been this year. Like, it's so close. You could look at it and, like, I think as Graham's just said in the chat, you can almost go from 11th down. And if they lose a couple of games in a row and they get, results go against them, they could end up being dragged in. I think from Swansea's point of view, I just think that I don't think they're particularly deep in their squad. Losing Grimes and Darling is massive because of their personalities as much as their football. But I also think it depends how long they stick with the manager, because I believe that they've lost, he's lost the dressing room. I think that's quite clear. If they stick with him for longer, like 3-4 more games, if they stick with him, that could be the difference between getting dragged into it and not. So it's fascinating.
I mean, Swansea's an interesting one because they looking at the playoffs not long ago, then they've had this bad run since New Year, and then drag further and further down. Losing Grimes is a big one because he's such an important player for them as well as being captain. Darling will probably go. He might wait till the summer till he goes, but he could easily go next week. I mean, you've got to replace these guys, and I know that the chairman is taking over the recruitment there. It's been a bit of a mess behind the scenes, and I don't think you really want a chairman from America, in all honesty, who doesn't know a great deal about the Championship, let alone English football, doing that. I mean, I might be wrong, but I believe he's the one who's instigating a lot of the transfers. So if they lose those two, Darling and Grimes, the spine of the team, really, they have to replace them, because Joe Allen, I think, is a player who was excellent, but I think he's definitely on his
of course
last legs. I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but he's not the player he was. And when you look at them, there's no great shakes there. But I still don't think they'll go down, but there will be a struggle. But I suppose as a Cardiff fan, it's nice to be on the other foot for a while, because it's been very different the last all season, really, isn't it? Since January.
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite brutal this season, particularly the start of the season for Cardiff. But I mean, even the South Wales derbies in recent years have not been a pleasant experience for Cardiff City fans. So that was nice to not only win the football match, but to win it so comfortably and in the style that we did was particularly nice. Darren, just to kind of finish up on the transfer side of things, have you, Sue in the comments asked if you'd heard anything about Jamalu Collins' exit? Obviously been out of the squad completely for many games now. Seems to be surplus to requirements. I actually thought he might have left already, but it hasn't materialized yet.
Yeah, they're trying to. There's a few players they're trying to shift out, and they have been for a while. But like anything, there's got to be takers. Otherwise, the club will look like terminate his contract, or will they wait to the end of the season? I don't know. But there was interest from Saudi Arabia. Interest in Germany, I think, but I don't know. I think he'll leave, but there's no major rush because if he leaves as a free agent, then that he can go anytime then. So I wouldn't surprise me if he leaves. Players leaving, Atete, him obviously is mentioned. Collins will be another. Anybody else? Maybe a couple of young players. There's no one on the top of my head who I can think of who definitely believe.
Reindorf's going on loan to
Reindorf, I think he's Notts County. I don't know if it's happened yet or not. There's a lot of interest in him, but again, I wouldn't really count him as a first team member. He was sort of on the fringes. I think Isaac Davis coming back will be a boost because they'll add another bit of pace down the wing. But again, he's missed the whole season, isn't he, so far? It's mad, really. So he's going to take a good 6 weeks, you think, to really get up to speed, a month maybe,
And he's out of contract as well, which is that's a really interesting one, that one, because he's out of contract, obviously missed the season, was previously, did all right on loan in Belgium, but it's a big period, isn't it, for him? A big finish to the season.
Yeah, and again, same with Ramsey. I mean, it's been really disappointing with Ramsey. I mean, I don't know about you. We watched him start the season, and I think Errol Bullock played Ramsey way too much. His track record of getting injured, and it was inevitable. And obviously, it happened on Wales duty of all frustrating times. But he thought it'd be out for a month, maybe, and it's been out. Was it 4 months now? 5 months? September, wasn't it? I think it was. And it's like, you've got to manage someone like him who just can't play Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday.
And he was playing him for 90 minutes a lot as well when he could have taken him off.
Yeah, I think it's a sign of the manager at the time was desperate for results, weren't they? And they thought, and I think Ramsey was trying a little bit too hard. I think it was so many games you were watching him and he was losing the ball and it was so frustrating. But I think him coming back will be almost like a new signing, but again, got to keep him fit.
That's the thing, isn't it?
Those two coming back will make a difference. You might see one more in. A winger in, I think that will be it. But there'll be 2 or 3 leaving, definitely.
Indeed. Darren, last question for you, mate, before I let you go. Where do you think Cardiff City will finish this season?
Oh, right. Well, being the ultimate pessimists, I don't know. I mean, I've always thought they'd struggle. I did think they'd struggle because last year they obviously were comfortable last year, but I was a bit concerned how reliant they were on set pieces, and they changed the style this year. And as you said, the lack of goals at the start of the season. I don't know, 17th, 18th, 16th, around that area. I think that'd be about right. 7th, 8th, bottom. I mean, if you look at it, who's going to go down? I think Plymouth will go down. And who the other two going to be? Derby, potentially, who have been on a bad run. But yeah, there's got to be 3 Portsmouth, who are a very strange team. Portsmouth, they'll win 1-4-0 and lose the next one 4-0. It's a bizarre one. But I think if you say to Cardiff fan now, you'll finish 4th bottom, I think everyone would just take it and get on and to rebuild for next season. So, yeah, I mean, everybody wants to kick on and do well, and of course they do. But I think at the moment it's still so precarious where they are. I said one or 2 defeats away from being at bottom 3. So they've just got to continue kicking on. Leeds is a hard game, obviously, on the weekend. I don't think anybody expects anything from that game. You never know. They've got a really good record against Leeds. So let's wait and see.
Yes, indeed, mate. Darren, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I really appreciate it, mate. And I'm sure we'll have you back on the show at some point soon. Hopefully, you can be a bit more cheerful about Cardiff City's
look, I'm not
on the pitch.
Yes, as I said to you, I think in the last month or so, things have definitely been brighter. And we just want it to continue because, like all fans, we just want success, really. And I think they're definitely stepping in the right direction. I think we've all seen that. And, 2 or 3 more wins in the next month or so. And hopefully there'll be a bit of clear daylight between them and the bottom 3. And we all breathe a little bit easier, I think. But, that's the championship for you, isn't it?
Indeed, mate. Indeed. Thank you for your time, Darren. Appreciate it, mate.
Thanks.
Take care. Thank you to Darren for his time. Another interesting guest, interesting chat to talk about Cardiff City and the transfers and things like that. But what could we do to finish off the Cardiff City World Hour on Cymru Sport? I know what we'll do. Let's make an announcement. So, on the 25th of April at SplotCons in Cardiff, which is the same venue where we hosted the Craig Bellamy event just a couple of weeks after he took over from for the Wales job, where we hosted also the Joe Ledley event, both sellout events, both extremely enjoyable and an absolute pleasure. So the 25th of April, we will be doing the same again, but this time we will be joined by former Cardiff City central defender, Glenn Louvens, and I'm really excited to have Glenn on. We were hoping that Glenn would join us this evening, but as I say, he's out in Lille doing a bit for some Champions League football. We couldn't quite make the timings work, but I'm really looking forward to chatting to Glenn and just really delving into his time at Cardiff. He's been he's very complimentary about his time at Cardiff. When I was speaking to him, he has also turned down some other opportunities to do other live events, to do ours. So I'm very privileged to say that. He hasn't done a lot of media. He hasn't done a lot of podcasts and live events. So he's, the stories that he tells will be very sort of the first time you hear them and things like that. As well as that, he's a very funny guy and he's very honest. So I'm really, really looking forward to hosting that event with Glenn. If you are a member, then you are able to get your tickets from 11 a.m. on Friday. The members will get an email with the details of how to get those tickets. But what I can also say is we keep the ticket prices nice and low. So they're £10 for the general tickets, £10. We were very insistent on keeping these tickets limited. So there's only about 100 odd tickets and we keep them affordable. There will also be another tier of ticket, which is £20, which is like a personal meet and greet ticket, a corporate ticket, if you like, where you'll have the opportunity to spend a bit of time with Glenn before the actual event starts. Details will also follow with that on Friday when it gets sent out to the members. So if you are a member, you will get 24 hours to get your tickets, and it is worth it because the last 3 events that we've done sold out pretty quick. They go on sale 11 a.m. on Saturday morning for to the general public. So after that, it's a free for all. As I say, limited tickets. There's only a small amount of the £20 tickets, very small amount, and there's only a small amount of tickets overall. And I'm sure we'll see a couple of Glenn's ex-teammates come along to say hello as well. It's going to be a fantastic evening, which I'm really, really looking forward to. Guys, thank you so much for joining me for the Cardiff City World Hour on Cymru Sport. It's been a genuine pleasure, and I hope that we can just build and build each week. We will be bringing in the integration of phone lines so people can phone up. We'll make it even more interactive. We'll have special guests each week. We'll be talking about all the latest news and much more. We want you to get involved, but don't turn off, because in just a minute we will be starting the Welsh Football Hour, where we talk all things Welsh football. Please do join us. But in the meantime, thank you so much. If you're watching on Cardiff City World, of course, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we will be back in just a second.
If you're hearing this, so are your potential customers. Be heard and reach sports fans across the country. We have advertising opportunities available throughout our programmes, website and commentaries. Working with you, we will create a bespoke package and make sure your message reaches the people you want to hear it. Contact us today to find out how Cymru Sport could help your business. Email contact@cymrusport.cymru. Home of Welsh sport. This is Cymru Sports.
Welcome to the Welsh Football Hour on Cymru Sport, your go-to show for everything Welsh football, from the national team to the JD Cymru Premier, Welsh EFL clubs, grassroots football and beyond. And tonight we have a brilliant lineup. Wales top football correspondent Lawrence Mora joins us as he talks about Craig Bellamy era so far, the national team boss, the upcoming qualifiers. Laura will talk about his work with the Welsh Premier League clubs and much more. We've also got Welsh football fans host Evan Powell in the house to break down Merthyr Town's season so far how they're shaping up, what's next for the club. He has got all the insight. And of course, we'll be looking ahead to the weekend's big games that Cymru Sport's own commentators drop in to preview our live coverage. As always, this is a show for the fans. Have your say, join the discussion, be a part of the conversation. This is the Welsh Football Hour on Cymru Sport. So let's go. Excuse me. I do apologise, lost my voice there. Welcome to the Welsh Football Hour. And straight away, without fail, always on time is this man. He's a pure gentleman. Wales's best football correspondent. It is none other than Mr. Lawrence Mora joins us. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
Oh, mate, what a build-up. Thank you so much for that. That's very, very kind. And thank you so much for letting me be your first guest on your first show. So congratulations. I'm absolutely thrilled for you, Si.
Thank you very much, mate. Yeah, it's been interesting. Obviously, we just had the Cardiff City Hour, and you get the privilege of being the first hour on the first guest, should I say, on the Welsh Football Hour.
I'm very privileged.
As it is the Welsh Football Hour, it seems natural that we should start with the Welsh national team. I would like to ask you what you make of the Craig Bellamy era so far.
Well, I think, along with kind of all of the fans, I've been absolutely sort of blown away by the autumn of Craig's first campaign as a Wales manager, and his first campaign as a manager in his own right. Obviously, as assistant at Burnley, he did some really good things, and there was some excellent stuff going into it. We thought, this could be interesting. We wonder how long it'll take the players to pick it up. My goodness, they picked it up quickly, didn't they? He's gone in there. The players look really enthused. I can say that if you sort of lifting the curtain a little bit from sort of a journalistic point of view and what you see behind the scenes and talking to the players outside of the press conferences, they're as enthused as they are in front of the camera. They've been, I think they've enjoyed him challenging them. I think they've enjoyed the new coaching regime that's there. I think it was probably time for a bit of a change in terms of the manager and the culture maybe around it. And I don't think it could have gone much better with a promotion to League A as well. So yeah, everyone's buzzing about the World Cup campaign. Full steam ahead. Come on, March. At least to hurry up.
I know it seems to be taking ages, doesn't it? Were you surprised at how quickly? Not so much that he took to the job, but how quickly he was able to get his tactic, his message, and not just get it across, but implement it on the pitch. Like, it was almost instant,
Yeah, I think, so two things that really, really kind of surprised me and I was interested in was, first of all, seeing how he handled it and what he was like as a manager. And I'm sure we'll come on to that. But yeah, in terms of your question, in terms of how quickly the players got hold of it, I think it was fascinating. Yeah, that home game against Turkey, it finished 0-0, but you still saw that style of play. You saw how they were trying to move it. You saw the inverted fullbacks. You saw Nico Williams and Connor Roberts coming into that central midfield position, and it was fascinating to see how they did it. I think one of the massive things that's changed sort of behind the scenes is the coaching staff that he's brought in. If you look at Andrew Crofts, assistant manager there now at Brighton, being promoted sort of very quickly behind the scenes there at Brighton, very, very highly rated young coach. You've got a guy called Pete Kremers who's come in from Manchester City. He followed the guys from Burnley as well, where he was brought in. Another young guy in his 30s, really well thought of in his field, and James Rhodri, who's gone up to where he's gone, Stoke, isn't it?
Stoke.
As assistant manager. Yeah, thank you. And to be honest, I know you've just had the Cardiff Hour, so we won't get stuck into that, but I'm not sure how they've missed out on having him involved at Cardiff City. But there you go. That is probably a discussion for some other program. But he's really, really good. Kit Margetson's come back in as goalkeeper coach. So I think that coaching staff is just a completely different beast to the one that Rob Page had towards the end of his tenure. And I think that whole setup with Craig leading it has inspired the players. And I think it shows how good they are the players have picked it up so quickly. But also, very positive to the players as well. They've picked it up quickly. They've worked super hard on it, and it showed in the results.
Absolutely, and I think it's fair to say that he's revolutionised that coaching staff. When you look at it, and a lot of young coaches in there, a lot of progressive coaches in there who are going to be, looks like they'll go on and have incredible careers within football, all really highly rated. And I think when you, as a manager, particularly a young manager, if you can surround yourself with that type of progressive coach, it's only going to help you build and help you get your message across. It was interesting because when I spoke, when I did the event with Craig, I was really taken in, and it was like, it's difficult to say, but it was just so fascinating talking to him and how enthusiastic he is about Wales and how much he wanted to take the Welsh team as high and as far as possible. But it was the standards. He talks so much about standards, on and off the pitch, what to expect from yourself individually, what to expect of yourself collectively, but also expected the same from himself, from his coaches, and from everything. And I think that's really, really shown from minute one, really, in that Turkey game right through. Even in some difficult moments, I think they navigated that as well. They had a bit of an issue, didn't they, with kind of second half performances a little bit early on. And then by the end of that Nations League sort of period, that had kind of disappeared a little bit. So, he addressed that as well. He's learning as he's going along. I think that's incredible. I really do. And I'm genuinely about as excited as I have been, certainly since 2016, where you feel like something's building. And as a Welshman, that's nothing but exciting, is it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree with more of that. And you're absolutely right in terms of the standards that Bellamy has been setting. And there's a lot to be said for experience. And it will be fascinating to see how this young coaching setup handles that pressure of a World Cup qualifying campaign. But what there is this undeniable hunger. Do you know what I mean? They are young guys who are got a real kind of clear way that they want to play, a clear way that they want to coach, and they're really hungry for success. So you get that work ethic, you get that sort of desire, and I really think that it's super positive, and it kind of flows down through the systems as well, in terms of the 16s, the 18s, the 19s, and it's fascinating to see. I think Matty Jones is doing a terrific job with the under 21s and providing a platform then for those young players to go in there. And maybe leaping ahead a little bit here, but right at the end of the campaign, when we were sat there sort of debriefing after the home game against Iceland with Bellamy, he was going, I've got some young ones, really young, and I can't wait to get them into the squad. So I think over the next year, we will see some really kind of young names that maybe haven't even properly broken into their club sides. We're maybe thinking about Biancheri, the former Cardiff guy that's up at Manchester United, among those players that may well be getting a call up out of the blue, who aren't near their first teams, but Bellamy wants to have them in that squad to get them into the way he's thinking and the way he's playing and those sort of meetings that he's already having.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said as well for the likes of Biancheri, Lewis Kumas, is, get him capped as well. Because I look, as you could say, I know maybe it's not like what the way you should look at it, but ultimately, I know that the Italian coaching staff have been down to Manchester United's academy training ground to speak to Biancheri. But I also know that Biancheri's a proud Welshman. He has the Welsh flag on his boots and things like that. But these are things you have to take into account. And you can tell that Craig Bellamy's very, very detail orientated. Yeah. And I had that conversation about him, Biancheri maybe being included soon yesterday with someone actually.
That's interesting. Because I think he's, hey, growing up, right? So I used to pretend to be, this is give you a clue on my background, but I used to pretend to be in the back garden, Paolo Maldini, Mark Hughes and Stuart Pearce. So you can make your assumptions from that. But when you are these dual nationality kids, it's a fascinating conundrum, isn't it? Because I'm sure he's very proud of his Italian roots and what have you. So, yeah. cap them maybe, but you want them making that decision and going, I want to play for Wales. I want to be part of this because it's an exciting young crop of players we've got right across the board there. And Craig Knight in the under-17s has done a terrific job. Back-to-back tournaments qualifying with the under-17s, incredible stuff, unheard of really for us. So how those kids then go into the 19s with Chris Gunter and what have you would be really fascinating to see. Among the other kind of names that are potentially kind of just knocking on the door there, young Owen Beck, who's over at Blackburn on loan at the moment. I've seen a couple of games of him when I've done some work for TalkSport, obviously around the Championship. So I've seen Owen a couple of times for Blackburn, and he's really impressed me. I think he's coming on leaps and bounds. Spoke to John Eustace, his manager, about him, and he was really pleased with him. Said about how much he was giving the team in terms of that attacking threat. And so a really good season for him. He's been in and around the squad, so perhaps we'll see him getting capped at some point over the next kind of few months, and that'll be a really interesting one to see as well.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's undeniably a very exciting time for Welsh football. You know, you look through right down to those 18, 17s. There's such a collection of young talent, which, you know, some of them are playing first team football already. Some of them are knocking on the door of their clubs. Mine in the chat's just said, you know, Charlie Crew is another one who's, I think, might be going out on loan. I think I read somewhere.
He's just gone out to Doncaster. So he's played his first kind of senior games in League Two over the coming on as sub a couple of times for Doncaster. So brilliant. Yeah, fantastic for him to get out and just get that game time, really, that they desperately need at that age.
Same as Joel Colwell, you know, went out to League Two at Cheltenham and then gone up to League One with Exeter now, and both sets of fans actually raving about him, you know, really excited by his talent already at Exeter. So that's it's really exciting, just even below the first team. But sticking with that first team, mate, got a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
My first question: does Cian Ashford get in the next Wales squad?
Okay.
Do you think he should?
So having watched Cian kind of over the last few months, I think he is doing absolutely terrifically. He's making really good strides. I suppose it comes down to, first of all, the players that are in charge of the jerseys at the moment. And when you look at how much Bellamy really does appreciate, I mean, his trust in Liam Cullen sent Liam Cullen's game to another level, and he has been absolutely terrific for Swansea. Superb form. You've also kind of got Mark Harris in there, who I think Bellamy really likes. Now, if you ask me which player has the highest ceiling, I'd say Ashford has the highest ceiling than Harris. However, I think at the moment, given what Harris gave in the autumn and then how he's doing for Oxford in the Championship as a bit more of an experienced player, I think he probably edges Ashford at the moment. So I think he's there or thereabouts, but I think he'll find himself in the under-21s first before he finds himself in it. And that's no disrespect, because he is doing fantastically at Cardiff. But there are times, I know, and because of the size of nation that we are, players do get promoted really quickly into that squad. So I don't think it would be the end of the world for Cian to, you know, still not quite be in there, to give himself another 6 months to actually kind of work through, become a Championship regular for Cardiff, and then getting pushed in there. There could be an argument maybe that, you know, Ruben's been too quickly integrated. They thought too much of him, and his progression jumped ahead, where actually he probably needed to be behind the scenes working on his game before getting that sort of international experience. Because he's a bit of an enigma, isn't he? And they can't quite get it right at Cardiff with him. He shows an incredible amount of talent, but I'm not sure he's a Bellamy player either. When Bellamy talks about profiles of players, I'm not sure he quite fits the bill.
Yeah, I've heard from sort of a few people from different places and within, you know, the live event, just chatting to people and stuff. Like, it feels like actually Bellamy and the Wales setup, they seem to fancy him as a bit of a deeper player. rather than the number 10 that he plays for Cardiff. They seem to think long term he might be a number 8, maybe even a number 6, which is really fascinating from a Cardiff point of view, because at Cardiff, particularly at the moment, he's kind of either plays number 10 or doesn't play. And he started off really well under Rhys, really well. It seemed like he'd found consistency, which I think was a big issue for him. And then kind of went off the boil, but then the team also went off the boil at the same time. So you wonder if that contributes to it. But unfortunately for Ruben, Alex Robertson's doing a phenomenal job in that number 10. So it'll be interesting. But, there's no doubt Ruben Colwell's got the ability. It's whether he can kind of find his way and his place and keep developing, I guess. Same as any footballer, young footballers, they've got to develop and play.
Do you know what? It's almost not quite Ruben's fault. And I know when I've spoken to friends who are Cardiff fans, and they're like, people concentrate on what he can't do more than what he can do. And there's definitely an argument for that. I do just wonder if he's almost a player out of his generation. Do you know what I mean? There's if you look at kind of how Bellamy likes to set up his team, he likes the sort of the Dan Jameses, the Mark Harris, Cullen, that are small and fast and furious, a little bit like him, I suppose, in a way, in that the work rate is there and they've got that energy to go. And Ruben's kind of physique and the way he carries himself, maybe kind of, it doesn't quite suit what they call these days the profile, which is really sad because he's a hell of a cracking player. So, I do wonder if maybe he even needs to change position. Do you know what I mean? Like whether he needs to play a slightly deeper midfield role and be able to sort of tempo set rather than having to do all the pressing at the top end of the pitch.
Well, Martin in the comments over on the Cardiff City World YouTube says that he's convinced that he thinks Bellamy thinks that Ruben is a Glenn Hoddle type of player. Someone who will kind of set the tone and spray it about a bit, and I can see that. Definite quality there.
Yeah, definitely.
With Craig Bellamy and his Welsh team, and it's a young team as well. In fairness, do you think there's a bit more pressure on Craig and the team because of how well he started going into these qualifiers now? Obviously, we'll be promoted in the Nations League, but for the time being, you've got the qualifiers up next. Is there a bit more pressure on him now because they've made an impressive start?
I think so. I don't know if about pressure, but definitely there is an expectation that we will challenge for the top spot. We've never won a World Cup qualifying group. We've never won a Euros qualifying group. So, what an incredible opportunity for them. The best thing for Craig and the team is that via the Nations League, they've already pretty much 90% secured a playoff spot. So it would take quite a kind of incredible set of results for them not to get a playoff spot. Therefore, you don't really need to be focusing on getting second place and ensuring that you get a playoff spot that way. You can just go for it. You can go for that top spot. So if you are drawing and you think, well, maybe we'll just shut up shop for this game. No, you can just go for it. And I think that's Bellamy's attitude as well, is that it'll just be there bullishly going, we're going top spot, boys. Belgium aren't the force that they were. That is for sure. Some incredible players, but they struggled in their Nations League. They're not quite firing. We've seen De Bruyne not quite hitting the heights that he has in the past. Maybe he's just on the... I shouldn't say this, should I? He'll go and smash a hat-trick against us. But no, it does feel like they're not quite the team that they were, so therefore we can get at them. Liechtenstein should be a foregone conclusion. Kazakhstan are an interesting... I think they're probably a little bit better than people think because they had a horrible Nations League, but they were in League B, the same as us. They've probably been promoted higher than they should have been. They took an absolute tonking during the Nations League. But I do think that people are slightly underestimating North Macedonia. And they had a really good Nations League. They've been a decent side for a while. They're the type of team that could cause problems, good pace in the side, and they could cause us problems. So they, I think, will... So maybe they'll take points off Belgium. I don't know. So it's going to be a fascinating campaign, but I do think that there's an expectation that we will be fighting for top spot. And I think that's absolutely fair. And I think Craig wouldn't have it any other way. He wants that expectation. It's the type of thing I think he thrives on.
Absolutely. Last couple of questions for you, mate. Slightly away from the Nations League.
Sure.
Very quickly, because I'm actually doing the show next week in the Welsh Football Hour is actually going to be a large part about this subject, so I don't want to delve into it too much. But Rob did ask, could you get Lawrence's view on the alleged proposed move from Cardiff, Wrexham, Newport, Swansea joining the Welsh Cup and in turn European places, which was obviously turned down by the FA? Where do you how do you feel about that? And what's the general feeling within? I know you do. You work a lot with the Welsh Prem teams. Like, what was the general consensus within those clubs towards it?
So I suppose it fell down kind of two routes. Well, listen, I'll tell you what, I'll just rewind it a little bit before I get to that answer, if that's okay. So from my understanding, this was an idea that was very heavily driven by Swansea's Andy Coleman, the owner chairman there, along with Noel Mooney from the FAW. Swansea sort of put a lot of money behind it in terms of getting Deloitte to come and take a look at the proposal and how that would affect the overall sphere of Welsh football. Hence why they got the £3 million that was going to be distributed across Welsh football, and told the EFL clubs that they wouldn't financially benefit from it as clubs. But that was always sort of a little bit of nonsense, quite frankly, from my opinion. I sort of put this forward on TalkSport when doing it with Simon Jordan, and he was like, well, of course they won't make a profit. All they'll do is spend the money on higher wages so that they break even, but they're still got more money to spend on players. And well, yeah, exactly. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work that out. And I think that was the big stumbling block for the FA and for the EFL clubs. And I think the FA made their position incredibly clear by saying that they're open for a conversation if the Welsh clubs want to represent Wales, that they play in the Welsh competitions. And there's absolutely no chance that Cardiff, Swansea or Wrexham, well, indeed Newport, and as we found out, Merthyr want to come back and play in Wales. So but to your question about the clubs, it was my understanding, as I did a bit of a straw poll with kind of various clubs, and club wise there was a lot of interest in it. The sacrificing one space in order to bring more money in and to then sort of generate more money as well domestically was very attractive to the clubs. Different for the fans. You certainly saw the Carnarvon fans, you saw the Barrytown fans up in arms. Actually, there's a fair few fans from kind of Wrexham and Swansea and Cardiff as well, and Newport, who were also like, oh, look, we play in England, so you can't have your cake and eat it. It should go to the clubs that are there. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure why they didn't go straight to the FA and get that decision before they spent lots of money trying to pursue it. Perhaps they knew what the answer was going to be, and they thought if they put enough pressure on that politically they may get it over the line, but it just got shot down really. And I think that idea for the time being and for a good while is probably dead in the water.
Yeah, it was a strange one, wasn't it? Like, I agree with you. I think they might have been better seeing what the answer was before they spent all that money and publicised it. But I
think that was just they were just trying to put pressure on, weren't they, to try and
yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Go on. No,
I was just going to say, and I suppose that kind of, in a way, at the same time, it was fascinating to see as well, wasn't it? That question about playing in Europe came in and around almost exactly the same time as the Merthyr question and the sudden finding of several £1 million to try and entice Merthyr back, which was another fascinating move and rather odd, I thought. But so the Merthyr thing, and I'm sure you're going to talk to Evan about it, and I'm sure he will give you it both barrels in terms of how Merthyr felt about it. But yeah, I kind of feel that one upset a lot of Welsh domestic fans. certainly because they were like, well, hang on a sec, we're here. Like, if you can find £6 million to suddenly throw at one club to get them to come back, like, why can't you give us a proportion of that money so that we can continue to develop our facilities and entice the local communities to come and watch Welsh domestic football? So I think that one was a major own goal. I don't think the bringing the English clubs back was an own goal. I think there was good debate, and it probably worked out the way it worked out because of what the FA did. But I think the Merthyr one has upset an awful lot of people, from my understanding, in the wider Welsh football community.
Indeed, Brent. Well, we will get the Merthyr view on that in just a second. Lawrence, as always, my friend, it is an absolute pleasure to discuss anything with you. I appreciate your time, mate. Thank you very much for joining me.
No worries, Si. Coffee soon, mate. Coffee soon. And listen, good luck with the show, because it's great to see you on here. So, right on, mate. Keep going.
Thank you very much. Cheers, mate.
The home of Welsh sport. This is Cymru Sport.
That was Lawrence Mora. And my next guest this evening is the host, the owner, the man at Welsh Football Fans Facebook page and Instagram and everywhere, really. You should check it out. Lots of good content on there and lots of good posts. He's also a hardcore Merthyr fan. I'm delighted to be joined and catch up with, because I haven't seen him for a very long time, Mr. Evan Powell. How are you, my friend?
Well, it has been a minute. Evan, it's great to be back on a show with you. Congratulations on landing this gig as well, my man.
Thank you very much, mate. Thank you very much. So I don't know if you just caught the end of that with Lawrence, but someone in the chat had asked sort of about the Merthyr being invited into the Welsh Premier League and how it sort of came about and that. What was the feeling within the Merthyr fan base, the Merthyr as a club, about that invitation, shall we say?
Well, it's been floated around for a good couple of years by now, and the consensus always has been that the fans want to stay in the English pyramid. And I think even as flattering as that option was to switch over, and the money that would have been thrown at the club for that, you have a lot of outsiders who would think, just run with that. It's £6 million, it's a brilliant investment. And it's not like we would be joining a poor setup anyway. We'd be a great addition to it. But from the get-go, I think anybody involved with the club knew what the answer was going to be.
Mm. What about you as a fan? Like, would you have been disappointed? Would you have been all right with it? Would you have been happy? Like, where would you have been if the powers that be had gone, right, we're going in the Welsh Prem? How would you have felt about that?
Personally, I'd watch them if they were playing Falkirk's Reserve up on the mountain. It wouldn't make a difference to me. But as a whole, I think such a big switch would ruin what the match day is for the majority of Merthyr fans. And as a result, you would see dwindling crowds. Generations have gone to watch Merthyr in this setup. Friendships have been made. And it's Saturday 3 o'clock kickoffs, home and away. Changing that to Friday nights, go into the back end of Bala or Carnarvon, is such a drastic shake-up to what it is currently and how it should stay going forward.
And you mentioned, like you say, you would watch Merthyr wherever you go. You've been there all season. It's a pretty good season, mate, at the moment as well. Like, how has it been? Talk me through your season so far.
Going into it, I wasn't expecting it to go the way it has, but at this moment in time, promotion is there for the take. And Jesus wept just how well it has gone, the football we have seen this season, and the increase in numbers going to watch every weekend. It has been brilliant, and the eyes are on Merthyr now. You've got the media who are reporting us in a positive light for a change. It's either silence, but now you're seeing our results popping up on BBC Sport. We are unavoidable at this moment in time, and it has been an absolute pleasure to witness that this year.
And I see, I think I've seen more clips from, like the crowd and things like that on social media than probably certainly for a good few years. What have the crowds been like? Has it been growing, exponentially through the season, or has it been pretty solid from the start of the season?
Well, for the last 2 years, I'd say the crowds have been growing little by little, and you have got an active contingent of young supporters going to watch week in, week out. starting the chants, making the noise, and it is resulting in one of the best atmospheres you will find in Wales, certainly better than anything in the Cymru Prem, I'd say. And it's all down to the grassroots. You've got families coming from all over the valleys and Merthyr Town itself to watch. People come in on day trips to watch. Season ticket holders at Cardiff, Swansea, Newport, all getting involved, and it just makes for a very fine day of football.
Is it does it? I mean, I know you're a lot younger than me, but I went to watch Cardiff Met. I don't know, a couple of years ago, and it was the first time I'd really watched any football outside of Cardiff for a very long time. And the first thing that struck me was, there wasn't many people watching, but the community and the spirit and the way that people interacted with each other was really old school. Like, it was really something special. And I think it's something almost that's been lost with modern football, is that everything's kind of very commercialized and very, polished, if you like, just all around. Whereas when I went to go and watch, Cardiff Met a couple of times, it was just that old school football feel. Do you feel like you get that with following the Merthyr? And do you think that's what is also, I know it's weird to say, but like almost enticing more young fans as well, like guys your age, young men? Also, you'll have the teenagers who are a bit younger as well, who are going down there. It's something special, I think, and it's something which should be, what's the word? Like something which should be, bred and built on. And it feels like Merthyr as a club are embracing that spirit, if you like. Would you say that's fair?
Very, very fair. And I think that is one of the biggest pull factors that Merthyr have at the moment. In terms of modern football as it is right now, you go to any non-league sort of setup all over the UK, and it is a different feel. It is a lot cheaper to attend regularly. It's a whole different experience. The beauty of Merthyr is being able to pay on the gate, have a pint and a smoke on the terrace if you fancy, have the room to roam around, meet up with a massive group of your mates. You can stand where you want. No one's going to tell you no different. And that is what football should be. And for many a decades it was. It's the closest my generation, anyone my age and younger, a bit older, have to, you hear about football in the 80s and the 90s. It's a totally different viewing experience in the top flight in the Football League at the moment, in the large part. Non-league provides that, and Merthyr being the only Welsh non-league side, it is a massive, massive factor, and it does bring the crowds in. And being this age, watching brilliant football as well, it's not like you're turning up Saturday expecting to get pumped. We are watching a brilliant quality of football against good sides in that setup. We are in the Southern Prem. We are the big day out for every side, really. The numbers speak for themselves on the most part, and it makes for the best viewing experience you can. When I think of football and how I like it to be, Merthyr provides that for me.
Interesting. What's the interactions like between the, like you say, I can imagine as well that, all the other clubs within the league, it's like a trip down to Wales, go and have a few beers, have a day out, whatever. What's the interactions like with the fans? Do you get that kind of, so, in the 90s and the 2000s and stuff like that, you'd have a lot of banter going back and forth at Ninian Park, say, where the away fans would be singing and then the home fans would sing something back, and it goes back and forth. You had that atmosphere, but it was also, generally speaking, obviously that, with different times, it was different elements of it, but generally speaking, it was that kind of good-natured ribbing and banter and things like that. Is there that sort of atmosphere within, Merthyr and the non-league as well?
Yeah, of course, it comes in abundance as well. And like it would be if you follow Cardiff, Swansea, etc., is that Wales versus England element, all the usual chants that come along with it. But in non-league as well, it seems to have that nicer sort of touch to it as well. I'd say friendly animosity is a good way to describe it. And on a large part, most fans who come up to Panthers Park on the weekends, it is a brilliant setup up there. They're able to make noise if they bring the numbers. We're able to give it back, and it makes for it's just a great experience to be involved. There are certain sides as well in the league who will bring numbers up. lost as the example, being the example this season. When Merthyr went there last bank holiday in August, you've seen 2 active sets of supporters there, pyro, major flags. Brilliant to see at that level of football, and it was the same when they come up after Christmas as well. And at that, it was the 7th tier in the pyramid, and you've got over 1,000 fans in the stadium. They're bringing in noise, and it is brilliant to see that, really. And of course, his non-league as well, the affordability will bring bigger crowds, and you've got local people following their local side, and it does have that community sense to it. But I don't think that feeling is as greatly appreciated in, say, the Football League as it is at this level.
Indeed, mate. Indeed. Do you talk to me about some of the players that excite you from the Merthyr team? I know there's a couple of young players in there who are doing very well, but you talk to me. You're the expert on it. I know bits and pieces, but you're the expert on Merthyr, so excite me, educate me.
There's a lot better people I've been to educate you on, really. But we can't talk about Merthyr this season without talking about Ricardo Rhys. The performances he's put in, the goals he is scoring at the moment, it is a miracle how we've still got him playing at this level at the moment. An utterly ridiculous footballer who should be playing his trade higher up than he is right now. But my God, for this season especially, a lot of us are grateful to have a player like that up front. You've got King Simpson next to him there as well. A beautiful partnership up front. They complement each other perfectly, and the results speak for themselves there. My particular standout this season, every game I've watched, pretty much, it is.
Evan, sorry to interrupt you, mate. You broke up a bit there, and it just all became a bit robotic, so I couldn't quite catch what you were saying, mate. What I'll do is we'll get you back on another time, because I got to start looking towards the next guest. I'll have a chat to you later, and we'll get you back on soon, mate. Okay. Thank you so much for your time, Evan, and we'll see you very, very soon, mate. Cheers. And moving on.
The home of Welsh sport. This is Cymru Sport.
And I'm delighted to get towards the final quarter of the show this evening. And we're just going to look forward to some of the coverage which is on Cymru Sport going into the weekend. And I am joined by Geraint. How are you, Geraint?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. It seems to be going well, Si. I've been listening in at both shows and looking at the comments. Lots of interest. So yeah, well done.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we just we've got to build it up and get it going. But it's been enjoyable. I had a lot of nervous energy today just because I wanted to get started. But I feel as if as I've gone on, I've relaxed a little bit, and we've had some really, really good guests, which always helps,
Yeah,
yourself included.
I get that before a commentary, to be honest. So I'm with you on that.
So what's coming up on Cymru Sport this weekend, then, Geraint?
Well, I kick off on Friday, and I've got a really excellent game in the Cymru South. You can't get better than this, I reckon, so far this season. Llanelli are playing Tritomas Bluebirds. It's first against second. Both teams are level on points. Tritomas have been on top for the whole season to date. At the weekend, Llanelli went top on goal difference. It's a battle of the giants. There's 8 points separating them from Pontypridd, although Ponty do have 2 games in hand. So it's a bit early to call it a 2-horse race. I want to see what goes on. I love the Stebanese. I love going there anyway. And I'm really looking forward to this because Tritomas are the team that's just come up from Tier 3. They shouldn't be where they are, according to most people, but they are because they're such a good unit. And you talk about community spirit. Evan was talking about that. You go to a place like Tritomas Bluebirds, and it's it's in pounds basically. Llanelli, well, they went to Tritomas early on in the season. They destroyed them 4-1. They've now recruited very wisely, I reckon. They've got Liam Eason in from Pontypridd United, and he's a guy I've always got a lot of time for. He's such a creative midfielder, and in the last I don't know, for Ponty and for Llanelli the last 5 or 6 games. He's either scored or he's done the assist. He's the fantasy football dream, really. I think in that sense. So I'm looking really, really forward to that. That's 7:30 kickoff, and it'll be live on Cymru Sport. On Saturday, we've got 2 of our new recruits, students from the Aberystwyth area. They're going to the Cymru North game between Penryncoch and Holywell Town. Holywell are one of the top teams in the Cymru North, but they actually upset the apple cart at the weekend. They overturned Airbus, who have been the strongest team in the Cymru North to date. Penryncoch, they're sort of it's a village club. It's they don't pay their players, unlike some of the other teams higher up, and so it's a really good, honest club. It's a difficult place to go to, Kai Baker. It's got a wonderful slope, reminiscent of what they used to refer to as Yeovil Town. And Penryn will give them a game, but Johnny Hazelden's team are normally good as well. So that's a cracking game. We've got Francesco and Bruno doing that on Saturday at 2:30. We got Matt Rowley, who is our regular Merthyr correspondent, and he's going off to Marlow to see Merthyr Town take on Marlow, see if they can continue this wonderful run. And I will back up what Evan said. I've been to Penydarren Park twice this season. I absolutely love the experience. I love the feeling of the place. Had a lot of interaction with Gosport fans, I think, when we went there earlier on. And it's, there was no sort of nastiness about it. They wanted to know how they could hear, for the mates back home, how they could hear the game and all this sort of thing. It was wonderful, and the food was excellent. Although I'm on a diet now, so I can't eat it. But there we go. And finally, our recording on Sunday, we do occasionally have live games in the Welsh language in Cymraeg, and normally led by Rod Francis, and Rod is going to Aberystwyth to watch the Aberystwyth development team take on Tregaron. This is a ladies' game. We do cover both men's and women's leagues. I think it's very important. Where possible, we cover that. Where possible, we cover in the Welsh language as well as the English language. Last Sunday, we covered the Aber women against Swansea City women in both languages. And yeah, that one's going to be a good game. And I'm looking forward to seeing the thing with the development team. It is up and coming players. It's also players who've decided that they don't want to play in the Adran Premier. And the key one for this for Aberystwyth is a lady called Tanya Wild, who is a superb striker. So when people moan on about Welsh football and how boring it is, and it's a farmers' league, and also, well, Tanya is a farmer, but that's another point. But the point is, it's not. Football's what you make of it, and at whatever level, and go along and have a look. It's really good.
Absolutely. I one of the things that I'm really looking forward to, particularly in this Welsh football hour, is talking to different people from, people like Evan who go to Merthyr week in, week out. We've got someone coming on next week who does a lot of, he writes the programs for Cardiff Met, but he goes home and away with them. And he's got a really interesting story because not last year, for the first 30 years of his life, he was a Cardiff City fan, home and away, went since he was a child, had literally every program, every bit of memorabilia that you could have. And when Cardiff kind of when it was rebranded, he completely, fell out of love with it, as so many people did. And he's got, it's an interesting story, but he speaks so highly of the, not just the football that's played, but, at Cardiff Met and the teams that they play, but the atmosphere and everything which goes into it with all these clubs. And I'm really looking forward for me to learn more about, the different experiences, the different players, the different clubs, but also, just talking all things Welsh football, Garen. I'm really, really excited by it, I've got to say. What's been your first? What's been your favourite game to cover this year? or this season?
Oh goodness. That's a difficult one.
Mhm.
I think I enjoyed. I must admit, I enjoyed going to Bangor Boxing Day. Football wise, I don't think it was the best game I saw, but the thing about me, I try not to hang on to the same team, and I tend to try and move around and visit grounds, and we go tiers 1 to 3. So on Saturday, when you talked about Cardiff and Cardiff Met, I was actually at Cardiff Corinthians on Saturday doing their
Cool.
game against Treherbert up in Rada, and it was a great experience. They were excellent hosts, and you had very small number of fans. Cardiff City were playing at home, but it's worth checking. It's worth adopting a second team. Next time I'm in Cardiff, because my son is in uni there. Next time I go down and see him, I might have a look at the Draconians, because they're top of their league in Tier 3. They look like they might be Cymru South next year. It's fascinating, but yeah, I don't know. I have I got a standout game? Yeah, I suppose. Would you believe I'm going into the third tier? And when I listened to Bow Street, over Christmas we were watching Bow Street, which is a village just outside Aberystwyth, taking on Dolgellau Athletic. Now it sounds odd, but it is a top of the table clash in the Ardal North East, and it was 3-3. It was wonderful to watch, unless you're a Dolgellau fan, because they were 3-1 up at one point. Bow Street fought back, got the equaliser, and then the next game they was at home, which I was at. They played Radnor Valley, and exactly the same happened to them. They were 3-1 up, and the away team clawed it back. So I was talking to the manager, and I said, "Now you know what the Dolgellau boss was feeling." And it's great to have that interaction as well at that level. So.
Absolutely, yeah. Yes, I'm genuinely fascinated, because I'm less familiar with Welsh League football and all of the tiers, but it is interesting. Cardiff Drax is not far from me, and I do see some of my friends on social media and stuff who either watch or play with them. I'm my good friends with Derek Brazil, who's involved with Thomas Bluebirds. I think he's involved. I'm not sure if I don't think he's the manager, and I think he's involved in somehow. So it's really interesting, but it's good to see these people like Derek Brazil, did had a successful football career, and it's good to see them giving back and working within the community and working within football. And what are Thomas Bluebirds like as a team, as hosts and things like that, Garant?
Well, I've never been to Thomas itself. It's over by Caerphilly, for those who don't know. I have seen them 3 times before. Last season, when they were winning actually, I saw them win the FA Trophy final against Denby Town, and I thought Denby were the favourites then, so they really overcame the odds. I saw them 4 times. I saw them in the against Newport City, which they survived. I saw them last season lose in the semi-final in the trophy to Penryncourt by a single goal, and that really was a ground-out win. And then they went to Pontypridd United this season, which I was at, obviously, and took the home team apart. Gav Allen, who was the manager at the time, was not happy at all with the way that Thomas went through. As I say, I think that it's a village club mentality that has built up this sort of mutual respect, and you've got players there who you've got old stagers, you've got young uns there as well, and I just like the way that feeling is of them.
Indeed, yeah, absolutely. So, Geraint, look forward to the commentary over the weekend, especially it was starting Friday, which is always nice because you get the Friday, Saturday sort of commentaries. And where's obviously the best place for people to listen through is through the website, which there is a link to in the description if you're watching on YouTube or on the Cymru Sport Facebook page. There's links to Cymru Sport's website there. And obviously you can check out all the things that Cymru Sport do. I know you've added a podcast recently. Is it? I forgot the name of it, but I think it's the Press Pass, is it?
Yeah,
and a couple of other things.
Yeah, that's my colleague Alan, and what he's doing is he's trying to go through the Welsh football and having a podcast on a different manager each week. And so far he's done the Llai Welfare manager, the Llandudno manager, and the TNS ladies manager. So he's got a few more up his sleeve coming soon.
Excellent. That's what it's good to see. I like that the content is evolving within Cymru Sport as well. You've obviously got the commentaries, but adding more stuff all the time is good because it's something that I really believe in. As I said to you when I spoke to you, the first or second time, I really like the concept of Cymru Sport as a station, and I like what they're trying to do, and I'm very proud to be involved and getting on board. I think we'll finish before I let you go, Geraint. There's a question in the comment which Martin has just put in, so I thought I'd put that to you, seeing as it's directed for you. And he says, are there many ex-professional academy lads playing within the Welsh leagues?
Yes, there are, but don't ask me to name a lot of them. I mean, I'm based in Aberystwyth, and I can tell you that some of the better players in Aberystwyth have come from West Midlands academies. Frankie Ealing came from Villa. Rico Patterson came from Birmingham. There are a few around. That's just, because of where I am, I do see Aberystwyth a lot, although it's a bit of a horror story at the moment. Yes, there are. And also I would say that academy kids from the Premier teams do filter down into the lower leagues, as does the Welsh schoolboy squads and the Welsh under 16, 17 squads. So you find some of those players featuring at a later date as well.
Oh, excellent. Geraint, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I'm sure we'll see plenty of each other each Wednesday night, as you can update me with the various commentaries which are coming. If people do want to get involved with Cymru Sport and maybe contribute to commentaries and things like that, is there a particular email address or a way to contact you guys?
Simple one is contact@cymrusport.cymru.
Excellent. So I'll drop that into the description as well for the episodes and stuff, so we can help people make contact, because hopefully we can just keep growing and growing everything which goes with it. But Geraint, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. So yes, that's as we look towards the end of our 2-hour stint on Cymru Sport Radio, and Cardiff City World YouTube as well. I want to say thank you very much to all my guests. Obviously, we started the evening with former Cardiff City manager and captain Mark Hudson. We were then joined by journalist Dan Whitcup to round up Cardiff's sort of season and the ins and outs in the transfer window as we get to the last few days. And then we moved into the Welsh Football Hour. We were joined by TalkSport and Sky Sports Welsh football correspondent Lawrence Mora, who's so knowledgeable, and it's always a pleasure to discuss Wales and Welsh football with him. We were joined by Merthyr fan Evan Powell, and of course Welsh football fans host. And then we finished off with Geraint from Cymru Sport, who took us through the commentaries on Cymru Sport this weekend. So please do check those out over the weekend. Have a listen. And of course, if you're at a loose end, go and watch some Welsh League football, because I got to say, between a little bit of Lawrence and between Evan and Geraint, they've really intrigued me and made me want to go and watch more Welsh League football. So certainly something which I'm going to look into in the future. Next week, we have more guests. We have more interaction with you guys. We have more interesting discussions. We have some great guests on the Cardiff City podcast, the Cardiff City World show. It's not a podcast. In the first hour, and then going into the Welsh football hour, we will have a really deep dive into this Welsh Cup, EFL clubs, Euros, this whole sort of thing which has gone on over the recent weeks. And I'm bringing in a top journalist to take a deep dive into that. He knows all the ins and outs of it and how it's gone about. So I'm really looking forward to having him join me. Please look out on our social medias and Cymru Sport social medias for more information. And don't forget that we announced an all new live event this just a little bit earlier on with former Cardiff City defender Glenn Louvens. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for all the interaction. We'll be back same time next week. Cardiff City World, the Welsh Football Hour, live on Cymru Sport every Wednesday, 7 till 9 p.m. For fans, by fans. Take care.
Wow! What a goal!
Be a part of the action and help Cymru Sport to cover more games across the country.
It's 3-2! Oh my word! Where did that come from?
Your business can sponsor a commentary, reaching football fans with your message at the same time as supporting our live commentary of Welsh sports. Contact us today by emailing advertising@cymrusport.cymru.